The Locked On Podcast Network presents the College Sports Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in college sports. From our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. Bringing you the real story. Why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The College Sports Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in college sports.
Oregon overcame what seemed like everything.
You are Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Oregon Ducks.
I don't know how I still have voice left today. I called a double overtime football game for SUU, and now I am here, and oh my goodness. This was just an incredible football game across the board, and Oregon played phenomenally well, and also at the same time, horrifically sloppy. And yet you look up and they've beaten USC number 15 by 15. I can't wait for the committee to drop USC out of the rankings and everyone be able to say, oh, Oregon hasn't beaten a ranked team. Hasn't happened. Haven't done it, man. I think the word that comes to my mind most often as I think about this win is overcome. Oregon had to overcome a lot because the offensive line injuries were actually wild. Legitimately insane. I am so unbelievably impressed with Alik Terry and his guys and having them ready to go. By the end of the game, this was the game day matchup, the premier game in college football this week. All eyes were on Autzen. And while the game was still well within doubt, you had Charlie Pickard at center, former walk-on, and guys who, if I'd made a long depth chart when the season began, would have been anywhere from 4th to 6th on the offensive tackle group. Those guys were out there playing. You barely noticed. Oregon was without, 11 players, it felt like? You could have put together a pretty good team of injured Ducks offensively that were on the sidelines in this game. It was absolutely incredible. And USC dealt with injuries as well. They absolutely did. But it was not as severe as Oregon. Not even close. Because the group up front, that is where I just keep coming back to. Dante Moore in this game was sacked a grand total of 0 times. Oregon averaged just 4.4 yards a carry, one of their lowest totals of the season, but they ran for 179 yards as a team. Man, that offensive line just showed up. In the game, the biggest game that USC has played under Lincoln Riley in 3 years. They're playing to have the right to go to the playoff. They win that game, and USC plays UCLA for the right to go to the playoff next week. I wouldn't even push back on it. Wouldn't have pushed back if Oregon had been left out at 10-2 in that scenario. Had to have it. Game of the year, and guys embraced to the maximum the next man up mentality you've got to have in a spot like that. Just an incredible effort from the boys up front. Absolutely phenomenal. And man, there has to be a hint of embarrassment in there for USC. You didn't sack Dante Moore, and you couldn't stop Oregon's rushing attack, and they were playing guys who haven't even logged 100 snaps. I think there are guys playing that didn't even have 50 snaps on the season, and you still couldn't get it done. Still could not get it done. USC got every single pass interference flag to go in their direction, or not have a flag thrown at all when it was warranted, or just flags in general. And yet Oregon won the game by 15. The amazing thing about this game is that Oregon was overcoming all of that. The injuries, the penalties, against a good USC team. And they could have won this game by 30 points. This could have gotten ugly. And Oregon made a bevy of mistakes to allow USC to stay in it. And guess what? I'm not going to talk about those today. I'm not going to talk about the bad stuff because this is a win that should be embraced by Duck fans, held on to, emotionally carried with them as they go to sleep tonight. And it should have some residual effects when you wake up on Sunday morning. Because, man, that was an awesome football game. You've got a rival coming to town. You've got game day in town. Everything was there. You had to have it. And when your backs were against the wall, and I was going to say when the chips were down, but how about when most of your team feels like they're down, the offense just steps up in a big way. Defense didn't have its best day. Defense did more than enough. USC in this game ran for 52 yards as a team. 52. I think that's their lowest total of the year. I'm going to double check that. So was the defense perfect? Nope, certainly not. But did they do enough things well? Yes, they absolutely did. Remember what the story was on the defense, or the narrative, so to speak, coming into the year? It was that they have not been able to keep good teams in big games under 30 points. Well, here we are. 27 points, and nope, it wasn't perfect. They made some mistakes. I think the officiating helped out USC in a significant way. And for the second time this year, I have felt that way about a game that Oregon has played. And again, I cannot attribute that to malicious intent when it's very easily attributable to incompetence. And the way that Oregon just overcame time and again, and they had chances to put this game away, and they just simply didn't. USC stats are not coming up for some reason, so I'll get back to you on the rushing thing. But the way that Oregon overcame again and went and played, and they had chances and made mistakes. I'm going to talk about those tomorrow because, man, this was a stressful game at the end, and it was exciting. It was exhilarating. It was all of those things. However, if Oregon had played a better brand of football, I think they would have put up at least 56 points. At least. I think they could have gone for more. They didn't. But man, the Will Stein critics have to take a seat today. Doesn't mean there won't be opportunities to return to that train. You can't be there today, even though there were moments where I was wanting to rip my hair out at certain spots in this game, without question. Without question. And guess what? 42 points in a big game when you had to have it and the defense was off. Oregon's ability to play complementary football this year has been great. In Penn State, the defense had to step up in the first half, and the offense got it going. They go out and win the game. And here, defense doesn't have its best day. Doesn't have its best fastball. Usually tops out 97, 98. Today is 94, 95. Well, you better have a sweeper or a slider. And they did. And that was the offense today.
The NFL season is rolling along, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet hits, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I want to bet in the moment, whether it's building a same-game parlay or jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy to Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
The Oklahoma Sooners are 9-2.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners.
Sooners pull out the victory against Missouri 17-6. And Oklahoma's now really in the driver's seat, heading to a potential chance of going 10-2 and walking into the playoffs. And so we're going to jump in. We're going to break down the game. We're going to look at both sides of the ball like we always do. John is out today, so you got your boy Jay here. You can follow me at Unfair Sports, as well as check out my channel, Unfair Sports, for more Oklahoma content, college football, and SEC content itself. And the Sooners did it. They just did it. That's basically the only thing I can say out of this. The defense was bending but did not break. They forced Missouri to play the game that they did not want to play. And I don't think people understand when I say that they dominated Missouri, but they really did, because Missouri likes to do one thing and one thing only. They like to run down your throat. That is their strength. That is the most powerful and potent portion of their offense. And guess what happened? We only gave up 70 yards of total offense, of rushing in this game. We gave up 301 total yards. We were almost at the 200 mark. We was holding them, but in the fourth quarter, they ended up finishing with like 106 yards of offense. But Oklahoma did a really good job of forcing the run game after it bursted in the first quarter. It's 61 yards in the first quarter rushing for Missouri. Second quarter, they had 9 yards. Third quarter, they had 9 more yards. And in fourth quarter, they finished with -9 yards. And so in that respect, the second half, Missouri only had 0 rushing yards. That to me tells you everything you needed to know about how this defense plays. This tells you everything you need to know about how Brent Venables has been pushing this defense to be great. Yes, the offense has struggled, but don't worry. I'm going to rip into them a little bit later. So if you want to hear that part, stick around. But the defense is the one that deserves all of the flowers. Hardy, who is hands down the best running back in college football. I don't care nobody say. You can argue with your mom on that one. That man had 17 carries for 57 yards. He had one big 20-yard play. And if you take that away, 16 carries for 37 yards. You did your job in this game. And we talked about this before the game. John Miller from Locked On Missouri talked about it in the crossover. I talked about it with Coop over on my channel on the Sooner or Later Sports Podcast. Guess what? The only way you win this game is to stop Hardy. You did it. Jamal Roberts, the other dynamic running back they had, 10 carries, 14 yards. So overall, this defense did its job. And the good thing about this is, and I know a lot of people have been in the comments, I see some of you guys in there too as well, that you got to get this offense going to be successful long term. It's about to get cold. And the one thing that travels in the cold, defenses and rushing. So we'll talk about how the rushing was going, but the defense did exactly what you needed. Going 9-2, I for real, I want y'all to hop in these comments. I'm reading what you're saying as I'm talking, but I want y'all to explain something to me. How many of y'all thought we were going to win 9 games this year? Go ahead. Tell me. I want y'all to be truthful with me and yourself, because I said 10 wins was the floor for this team. We're at the floor. Now we just got to win next week. Not putting the cart before the horse. We got to win. But 9-2 feels good, right? Like 9-2 feels like something to celebrate. No, we've got a lot of complaining to do, though. We've got a lot of things we need to get better at. And as BV would say, if you follow me on social media at Unfair Sports, you'll see me post this every time something good comes from Oklahoma. Excuse me. It ain't good enough. It ain't good enough. You need more. And the good thing is, the defense keeps rising to the occasion that we need. That is what's most important. So many people did not believe in this team going into this game. Not that they would lose to Missouri, but Missouri truly had a chance. And I'm going to say, I totally agreed on that. Missouri had to play a borderline flawless game, and they couldn't. Bo Prabula comes in. He plays on that, messed up ankle. 20 for 36, 231 yards. 2 picks. We caused more turnovers again, y'all. Jacoby Johnson with a sick interception. And then Eli Bowen closes the game out with his pick. We did what we needed. He was not comfortable in that pocket at all. He was not feeling good. 8 tackles for loss for this defense. We had 4 sacks. So you know our dudes was out there forcing and causing problems. Something that I love to see. Grayson Halton and Taylor Wine teaming up for a sack together, and Taylor Wine getting one by himself. He finished with 1.5 sacks, folks, and 2 tackles for loss. Look, Taylor Wine's that dude. Period. Taylor Wine's that dude. DBs did work. You saw Cortland Guillory out there causing issues. You saw them trying their hardest to match up their receivers with our safeties because the angles were definitely going to be in their favor. They got some solid passes out of it. But Bowen was breaking up passes. You got Kip and Kendall Daniels out there balling. Don't worry, I'm going to get into the egregiousness of the refs because as y'all know, I preach this same sermon all the time. Never let the refs determine your success. You can't lean in on them, guys. We know that they're not going to call the stuff that we need in order to win and be successful. We know it's not going to happen. So I understand the grievances in the comments because I have many of them as well that I will talk about after the first break. But what I want to say here is I am just proud of this defense because I'm going to be honest. That first half made me feel like initially that, man, this defense is going to quit after a while. They're getting tired of this crap. But the good thing is their love for Brent Venables is so high that their love for Oklahoma, their love for the strain, their love for the grind is too big to want to quit or even feel like it's BS, right? They know that we're going to have some things down on our side. They're going to call some Bush League calls. They're going to call some ridiculous flags out there. We know it. So we got to make sure we keep our head down and grind it. And this is what was beautiful. Targeting call. I'm going to break it down a little bit later. But the fact that after that play, the ball don't lie, we get an interception. We had to let them know, man. It was absurd to even call it, period. But we had so many good moments, especially on the defensive side of the ball, that put a smile on my face. Even in all of this pain. I feel like the Facebook meme. Somebody saying you should smile more. Ain't nothing to smile in my life right now. Because of just everything's not going in cohesion as we would like. But the good thing overall is Oklahoma did what they needed to do to finish this game. Time of possession is wild. 32 for Missouri, 27 for Oklahoma. And I'm going to be 100% honest, I thought it was higher than that. I thought Missouri had the ball for 40 minutes. Felt like it. It felt like they had the ball for 40 minutes in this game. But they didn't. 32, 27. But then you started to see as the game progressed, Oklahoma did a really, really, really good job of turning up here in the second half. They did a good job of forcing Missouri to play the game that they don't want to, especially when you finally got some explosive plays and you close them out. You closed them out at the end of the second quarter. Halftime, you had it. That's when you're like, all right, this game is done. So I want to make sure that us as fans, as much as we would like to complain about the littlest things, and again, I am not nullifying anybody's complaints. I am not telling you can't. I'm just reminding you, it's okay to see that sunshine coming through that dark cloud. You saw some of it. You saw the sun beaming, so you know it's there. You know there is sunshine there.
The NFL season is rolling along, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet hits, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I want to bet in the moment, whether it's building a same-game parlay or jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy to Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
If I told you that TCU won a game over a top 25 team without Josh Hoover playing his best game, would you believe me?
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
TCU has done it. TCU has pulled off an upset over top 25 ranked Houston. I didn't see it coming. I don't think most of you saw it coming, but are we happy about how it came about? I think that's a huge question to ask, but I will say the stance should be an upset is an upset. They say a win is a win. An upset is an upset. That's the approach that I'm taking. We'll look in segment 2 at some of the game balls that we're handing out, because homecomings in the city of Houston were very favorable, very kind to TCU. But Josh Hoover threw 3 interceptions. Jeremy Payne ran for 100 yards. So it's kind of like, which one do I put more stock in? That's the way that I feel about it. This game feels a little bit like the kombucha tasting meme that you've seen. The one where the lady takes a sip and says, then says, oh, it's kind of good. I don't know. Then it's good again. That's how this game feels. That's the way that I would articulate it. That's the way that I would bring an analogy to it. And honestly, I think that is the most accurate way to say it without using any sort of words, because Josh Hoover has been the engine to this offense since the beginning. Josh Hoover has been the guy who we all sit here and say he's going to take TCU as far as he can go. Matter of fact, I came on here this morning telling you how Josh Hoover needed to have a good game, not an all-timer. I didn't call it this week. Last week, I said he needed an all-timer in order to beat BYU, but I thought he needed a good game to beat Houston. Now, what I'll say about Hoover is it wasn't all bad. The way it started was phenomenal, and then it got really cold, and then it really felt like it hit the wall. He threw not 2, but 3 interceptions on the day, and somehow TCU still won this game. That's because the defense stood up. The defense did their part. I'm not going to really hone in on the negativity. I'm not going to hone in on the things that he did wrong, because like I said, an upset is an upset. I thought that this was a really good game by the defense. The defense needed a bounce back. I was fearful that Amari Thomas was someone who could make that not quite be what it wanted, not what we wanted it to, or excuse me, I was afraid that Amari Thomas could be a player who denied TCU's ability to have a bounce back performance, but that's not how it happened. I thought that defensively you had stars like Caleb Elarms or Jordan Lester. I thought that Devin Deal had a couple of plays in which he made an impact. This was a strong performance by a team on the defensive side of the ball who really needed a strong performance. I'm not going to say championing them, but I have been very high on what TCU could be as a defense. This is a great example of it. Did they allow some things to happen? Yes, but they bowled up in the red zone, and it's the difference maker in the game. At the end of the day, what TCU's defense did in the red zone, not just once, but 3 different times, is the difference maker between 17 points to 14 points. It's the difference between TCU scores to Houston score. It's the difference between winning and losing. And I don't know what happens if you lose this game. I think things start getting really turned up as far as conversations go. But the defense's ability to force a turnover on downs, and then 2 field goals that ended up missing. That is, what is it?
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
It's not one. It's the turning points. It's the forcing a turnover on downs when you're in scoring position. They get aggressive. They want to go for it instead of just taking the points. All right, cool. TCU's a bow up, and they'll go ahead and knock that down. You talk about a missed field goal. I thought Eddie Sanchez's lack of accuracy in this game was easily the most shocking development. So, Ethan Sanchez. Ethan Sanchez came into this game, this is the Houston kicker, averaging 86.9%. Houston's kicker, y'all hearing me? The guy who missed the final kick, the one that gave TCU the win. Ethan Sanchez had made 86.9% of his kicks. That means he was making nearly 9 out of 10 attempts. He had never missed a kick under 40 yards. He had made a kick between 48, and then he also made another one at 52. His leg was too short for the 49-yard field goal he attempted today. He missed a 38-yard field goal. Sometimes you just have to look and say things were in TCU's favor. There are a lot of reasons in which I feel like the Frogs shouldn't have won this game. There's a lot of reasons on why I feel like TCU should have not only lost, but probably lost by a touchdown, maybe 10 points, because you had some mistakes. You had opportunities presented to you that you didn't accomplish or that you didn't capitalize on. You had leads that you just squandered. You had turnovers by your best star. There are a lot of reasons why this shouldn't have gone well, but the defense continuously provided you with opportunities, right? So you get down in the end zone, you have an interception. That's one thing, because it wasn't a turnover downs. I forgot he actually caught the interception. And that's something I think should actually be discussed. It didn't end up meaning anything in the long run, but the fact that TCU caught that interception in the end zone as opposed to knocking it down when everybody knew they were going to the tight end. Everybody knew that Houston was going to their tight end. You had like 2, maybe 3 players on them. You caught that pass. You caught that interception. And instead of taking the ball at the 1, you took the ball at the 20. And quite frankly, if you don't have a fumble on that drive, you're probably going to respond with points, because generating offense is much easier when you're starting from the 20-25 as opposed to starting from the 1-yard line. It's much easier when you feel like you don't have to worry about, okay, we have to get 2-3 yards. We have to get 2-3 yards. If you don't get on first down, you got to try to get it on second. If you don't get it on second, enough on second, you got to be extremely cautious on third. And now you maybe give the ball right back to Houston with decent field position, but you're at the 20-yard line and you have a much better shot at getting points, and you should have got points. But that's what I mean when I say you squandered opportunities. The offense left a lot to be desired. I really genuinely feel like that's the case. And we're going to get more into that on Monday, probably. I think Monday will be Hoover specific. I think we'll probably get into either Monday or Wednesday. Remember, we're going to do a 3-day episode, 3-episode week. I don't know. We're going to do 3 episodes next week. That's the point. But yeah, shout out to volleyball, basketball, shout out to soccer, right? Soccer is moving forward. They have another game on Monday. They're currently in the tournament, and they just knocked off a team that was previously undefeated. So I said that because of this comment right here. Shout out to volleyball, shout out basketball, shout out soccer. But an upset is an upset. I think there's reason to be optimistic. There is. Jeremy Payne ran for 100 yards. Did you know? Hey, extra, read all about it. Breaking news. Did you know that TCU could run the football? I got a better question for you. Did you know that TCU could run the football when Kavorian Barnes wasn't around? I got a better question for you. Did you know that TCU could win a game when Josh Hoover didn't play his best? I got a better question for you. Did you know that TCU could win a game when Josh Hoover throws 2 interceptions because they hadn't done it up to this point? Maybe he has to go from 2 to 3, and that's the magic number. Maybe 2 is what it is. You have 2 interceptions from Hoover, losing the game. You have 3 interceptions from Hoover. Technically, it's not 2, it's more. That's the magic number. Did you know that? I didn't know half of it. I'll tell you that. I didn't know half of it, but I found out today. I found out this evening as TCU went down to Third Ward. They went down to Houston, Texas. They went on what I thought was not really a hostile environment. I thought it was more of a neutral site, and they beat a top 25 team. And though things didn't look the way we wanted, though it probably wasn't as encouraging as you desired, I still feel like there's value in an upset. I still feel like that offensive line played better than I had seen them pretty much all year. The way they were run blocking was amazing, and it was consistent.